Another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks, Modern Campground. I don't know what else I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm old and forget. Welcome to some of our special guests for our special AI tech episode that we have on the fourth week of every month. Matt Whitermore, Patrick is one of our special guests. I'll have everybody introduce themselves in a second. Cara Csizmadia from the CCRVA and Kurtis Wilkins. I still don't remember whether it's Kurt or Kurtis. Which one?
I go by both, Brian. Professionally, I go by Kurtis just because our CFO goes by Kurt.
Yeah, I thought you said something like that. How would I just call you like KW? We can give everybody like
a whole new name.
Oh, all right.
I can have a new name on here. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Kurtis it is then. Okay. So you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves briefly? You want to start, Matt?
Hey everyone, Matt Whitermore here, Director of Market Expansion at Unhitched Management and Climb Capital. We're an owner and operator of RV parks and campgrounds, growing portfolio across the country. Love to join on this call and learn about marketing and AI. So I'm excited to chat today.
Where are you at? Are you in a box? It looks
I am,
because it looks like the ceiling is at the corner at the top there. You're like
I'm huddled over a tiny little table in a conference room. I just joined a co-working space in downtown Syracuse.
Okay.
I was getting a little antsy working from home. I've got an awesome office set up, but just like to get out of the house. And so it's this beautiful brand new office building with all kinds of events and stuff in downtown Syracuse. It's been a lot of fun. So
I used to do that. So when we were in Cleveland, when I lived there, we had a co-working space when we had like 6 or 7 local employees, like when the company was much smaller and everybody was in Ohio. And I had a conference room. We used to go there once a week and do the co-working thing. Like I love working from home more. I just don't want to leave my house. So that's just me. But Kurtis, go ahead.
Kurtis Wilkins with Our Journey RV Resorts and Advanced Outdoor Management. I guess I am, I call myself the homie in our office that stands for Head of Monetization, Income, and E-commerce. Matt, I think you should adopt that title. We do a lot of the same stuff.
I like it.
Very cool. Go. Sorry, please. I thought you were...
I'm just excited. I am very excited. I have some new AI things that have come through, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome to talk about on Brian's podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Cara, go ahead.
Yeah, Cara Csizmadia. I'm president of the Canadian Camping and RV Association. I can empathize with the work from home perils with my attention-seeking dog here. That's Hank. I actually feel a bit disconnected from this conversation. I was away on vacation, and so put away all the tech and have been kind of avoiding it. So I'm ready to dive back into the realities of the world that we're facing here.
It's a good thing AI is moving really slow. You didn't miss much.
Yeah, no.
And Patrick, our special guest, last but not least.
Yeah, hey, Patrick Mullen. I head up operations for Influence Outdoor Hospitality. Thanks for the invitation this week. Really looking forward to talking about AI. Influence Outdoor Hospitality specializes in digital marketing for campgrounds, campground vendors, and any number of I think things that we have in common, right? So, Brian, appreciate the invitation and really looking forward to being a part of the panel.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Patrick. So typically how we start this is we'll go to our regular panelists, Kurtis, Matt, Cara. I know Kurtis is excited, so maybe we'll just first we'll ask Matt and Cara so they have a chance to talk. So do you guys have anything that has come across your desk in the last month that you feel like we should be talking about before Kurtis hijacks our show? He's like, look at him, he's swaying on the show.
I'm excited right now. This is gonna change. Like I walked into my office the next day and was like, this is insane. I was telling everybody they would listen.
All right. I'm interested. But Matt, Cara, you have anything before Kurtis goes into it?
Like I said, I was hiding out in Mexico for a while, so I'm out. I feel
you timed that really well. You got back and
really did. Yeah. I really did.
Kurtis, I'm ready for you to blow my mind.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Okay, so sorry, Brian, I should ask first before I dive right into this. Like, do you mind if I go into it?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it's all of our shows together.
So I left the last show, and I always leave with great ideas too. So I want everybody to know that. Like, and everybody was talking about Claude and Opus 4.6, and I was like, okay, I'm a little bit behind on that. I was a big Grok fan. I was a ChatGPT guy, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna go dip my toe into Claude real quick and see how that's going. And dipping my toe, I ended up dropping into an ocean of capacity. And I mean, this kept me up at night, Brian, like how awesome this is. And it's called the Dark Factory Pattern. And for those of you who don't know what that means, this is going to get a little bit deep into AI, but imagine a team of AI agents that work together to create something outside of your regular context window. So, for example, I want an HR team to review my handbook. This person is going to have this perspective. They're going to think about it from this way. We're going to be looking at it from safety and compliance and OSHA. And then I want this other agent to be looking at it from the time card and the clock. And then I want to introduce a finance person who's going to be looking at it as like, how much does this cost? And then you can assign a very large handbook, run 70 agents in parallel, and have them build sub-agents with the team that you've assigned. And it will overwrite the whole thing, spit it out, and shove it out to you as a completely full functional document. I just thought it was amazing. And that also goes for like ops teams. It goes for development teams, construction teams, like anybody that you want to have like take a look at this, and you want to have the best attorney team in the world. Just go say, hey, I want the best attorney team in the world to your agent. Have them list out what those job titles look like. Say now assign those tasks into small tasks, and it's changed. It's absolutely changed like organizational structure. And I was just blown away by it in the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, this is what people like. This is kind of, I'll call this in the weeds, right? But this is what people who still think ChatGPT is just a chatbot. And to be clear, I saw this crazy graphic. I don't know, did you guys see that going around on LinkedIn? The gray dots and the green dots and the percentage of people who have used AI. And if that graphic is correct, and I saw it cited by some smart people, 0.3% of the people in the entire world, 0.3% pay for a ChatGPT subscription or Claude or Gemini. So if you pay for one of those, you're already in the top 0.3% in the world. And then there's only something like, I don't know, 8 or 9% of people who actually have free subscriptions. There's still like 6.8 billion people in the world who have never touched AI to ask a conversation. So I thought that was interesting. But we're getting into what you're talking about is getting into the weeds with agents, right? So this is
I want to keep it pretty high level. I tried, but I went deep.
I'm gonna try to like say it how I would say it, and then you can see if you would agree like a little bit with what you're talking about, right? So we've done something similar with like the OpenClaw thing that Matt and I were talking about before the show that I've installed on my little Mac Mini. But either way, the purpose is agents, right? And so the earliest stages of this were if you knew how to prompt in ChatGPT when it came out, you could say go in and act as a lawyer, and what that does is it basically takes the whole corpus of ChatGPT's information, like it knows everything about everything on the internet, right? And when you ask a question like write me a contract that is good for waivers at a campground for my swimming pool, it will pull from all that knowledge, and somewhere in there will be lawyers that will refine it a little bit, right? But it's like if you go into that same conversation, you say act as the best lawyer who has 20 years of experience writing waivers for campgrounds with swimming pools, all of a sudden it narrows down that knowledge and cuts out all the other garbage, not garbage, but all the other information that it could pull in and doesn't need for this conversation. And then it writes you a much better waiver. So that was the very early, that wasn't an agent, but that was the very beginning of steering a conversation into something you specifically want. Act as a lawyer, act as an accountant, act as a digital marketer, act as a whatever, right? And so we were doing this like 2 years ago, but still like so many people have never experienced even that. And then what you're talking about with agents is the same thing. So it's like, and I'm not familiar with what you just talked about with the factory. I've never heard that thing before. but agents I have. So you can explain what that is and how you found it in a second if you want to for everybody else. But for agents, it's basically like think of it. Well, the easiest way to explain it is think of it like a different computer. Like let's say you have ChatGPT running on one computer and you have another ChatGPT running on another computer. But instead of you typing and talking to each of them, you're basically saying, I want to give you a task. So I want you to write the contract for my swimming pool. We'll just use a super easy example because we were already talking about that, right? The agent then is just going to get that task and figure out, okay, what do I need to write this contract? Do I need to ask you questions? Do I need to research the business? Do I need to go look at your swimming pool? Do I need to look at local state regulations? Do I need to figure out consent? Do I need to whatever else, right? But it's going to do all that research. It's going to create a plan. It's going to make the plan. It's going to go out and execute each step of the puzzle process. And then it's going to actually deliver you the contract, but in a way where you're not just asking ChatGPT, it's interacting and doing deeper research for you. And then you have an agent that is a lawyer that's permanent, right? Mm-hmm. That is a lawyer that, like the deeper example is that you get an agent that is actually trained on our journey and all your SOPs and all the things and all the ways that you interact and like to write legal contracts and a history of all that stuff. So it's the lawyer for our journey, literally. And then you can have an accountant for our journey and a marketer for our journey. And you can have a team. You're talking about 70. I don't know if I can say the F word on this podcast, but I just did. So sorry for the family-friendly children who are probably listening to us banter about this stuff. Then you could spin up like 70 agents, but you can have a team of lawyers. You could have a lawyer that specializes in liability at the campground, and a lawyer that specializes in contract law, and a lawyer that specializes in HR, and that these can be permanent. Like this is what we're talking about when we talk about the chance, what's coming with the employment replacement. Yeah. Not that we want it to happen, but it is happening, and whether that's only 0.3% of people or not, like it's going to be ugly.
And before I kind of go deeper into that, Brian, like one of the like to kind of like we talk about the early context window, right? And like 20 years of experience and like bringing in like, okay, you're an attorney that has 20 years of experience in general contract law. But then you might say, okay, but the team that I want to write my pool waiver is going to include somebody from the insurance industry, right? And they're going to include somebody from operations that's actually going to think about how do I facilitate signing the waiver. Right. And that's where we talk about this dark factory pattern where you have one core agent that knows what you do, and you're going to write let's call it an SOP for lack of a better term. There is a
No, I think you're right. Like an SOP to instruct the agents how to create the thing with the team.
Yeah. Like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. These are the considerations that I'm hoping you'll get to, but send this out to your team, break it into small tasks. Everybody's going to write their opinion. We refine in QA. In the software industry, right? That's where the dark factory pattern came from, was the software side. I just look at it. Every time you
say that, I think of Mel Gibson and Conspiracy Theory movie.
Well, it's dark factory. The term came from, it is you do not know what is inside this factory. You just know who works there. And you say, this is what I want, and software comes out the other side.
Okay, now that you say that, like there are actual dark factories in China with the robots running them that have no lights on.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Google says these factories operate 24/7 without lighting, heating, any human amenities. This drives massive efficiency, cost reduction, and consistent quality.
Yeah, they're in China. So I just didn't put it together with what he was saying, but yeah.
Dark factory, I don't mean it as in like the literal physical. Like I'm talking about the AI use case pattern. It's called dark factory. I'm sure that there's other.
For sure, we got you though. We're following.
Okay. And that's what's exciting. I mean, that's changing. It changes our perspective on what like software is, right? Like Brian, you're probably right there with like it's changed software a little bit. It's changed handbooks, it's changed every like thing, because we think about these as very concrete structures and pillars in which the business is built, right? Mm-hmm. And they're not flexible. And now there's this pattern that has come out, and they're very flexible. Like these things, you can go rewrite the foundation of something in like 6 hours. And that's what makes this revolutionary, is like, we now can focus less on a rigid process and more on, is it the right process? Well, today, let's make it go this way and A/B test it real fast on whether or not it makes everybody's lives a little bit easier or more efficient, or does the guest experience get a little bit better? Whereas before you would go, well, our remote check-in process is just the way it is, and we're not going to touch that until sprint 4 of Q3.
Yeah, the A/B
Right.
testing is crazy. There's it was either an Indian or a Chinese startup company with AI that I saw a few weeks ago, and I didn't have a chance to log into it, but it was a platform built on the whole, like, we will tell you what's going to happen with your marketing, for example, right? And so then you can put in like and you can do this with agents too, right? The way you're talking about it, Kurtis, right? But you can say, like, I want to run this Google Ads headline. Here's the park that I want to run it for. What will be the output of this or the impact or the results of this campaign? And then you literally have 150 different AI agents, quote, or responses that take on the persona of your audience. So there's a single mom with 2 kids and a retiree who's traveling across the country, and whatever your buyer personas are at your park, you have maybe 10 of those, and then you get 10 versions of each 10 of those. And then you ask them, like, would you click on this Google ad if you saw it? Yes, no, why, not, whatever. And so you can A/B test in 10 seconds and figure out, like, what's the perfect Google ad campaign I can run. Same thing with blog writing and Facebook posting. And that's not saying you should do this every single time, right? But it's really interesting.
And that also changes, because, like, I'm always on here kind of advocating the opposite direction as well. Is like, we create so much AI content all the time, right? And then what becomes unique and original? Well, human-made content, right? Like, it's kind of like,
how do you know that? How do you know it's human-made? That's going to be the problem.
Oh yeah, I kind of compare it to bread, right? It used to be that homemade bread nobody wanted homemade bread. Everybody wanted to go buy bread from the store because it was better. Now, what does everybody want? Store bread is bad. Homemade bread is awesome. And that was like a 120-year cycle. Somehow that marketers, they're good at what they do.
I mean, I think that was unique to the United States. I think the French have always had good bread. But anyway, continue.
That's true. That's very true.
Patrick, what are you guys doing with AI at Influence?
Yeah, so a little bit different, right? So Kurtis, thanks for that. I mean, I haven't spent any time with that piece of technology that you're talking about, but for us, it's all about agents, right? And it's about agents that you have who that you can leverage to write other agents. So we use it in a number of different ways, right? If we're putting a marketing campaign together, we want to use AI to really understand everything that we can about a campground, everything we can about an audience, all the standard things that most people use. But once we start running a campaign, right, there's a lot of human oversight and effort that goes in. There's a lot of AI, right? But when you're running campaigns, everything's a mix of art and science. And so the important thing is to actually, for us, to use agents to help us understand what's going on with the campaigns themselves. So, when you take a look at your Google MCC and you're trying to track down, $10,000, $20,000 campaign that's running this month, sure, you can look in and try to draw all the correlations that you can, but leveraging agents that you've written, right, or you've used other agents to help you write, they know the structure of the MCC, right? They understand everything about the way the campaign's been structured and how it could be structured. And so we use it a lot to help inform changes that we should make. Like, we know that Google has AI and they're always telling you what you should do, but they're telling you what you should do based on certain parameters that I think are very important to them. But they're not looking at all the signals that you might look at as a regular digital marketer. And then you take a look at a campaign that runs multiple tactics. And then now all of a sudden these agents are very helpful in identifying for you, attribution, especially linear, so that you understand where the assisted conversion came from and how you tie things together so that you can make the campaign smarter over time. So, for us, sure, we do a lot of testing. And, Kurtis, I think you're right on. And Matt, you were talking earlier before we started about Claude Code and any number of things, right? So it's great to do a lot of testing and understand what's possible out there. But it's even tougher to say, how do I take all of that power and turn it into something useful today, right? And so you have to understand what it is that you're trying to get at, and how can you do something more effectively than if you had 6 different professionals taking a look at a campaign and trying to give you a good analysis. It's so much easier when you can actually turn an agent onto an entire set of tactics for a given campground, and then understand what's feeding into which tactic, where the assisted conversions are coming from, so that you're actually driving stronger return on ad spend.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like you mentioned the human in the loop thing. You were talking about having the humans review it, and like you and I, to be clear, like we're not really competitors. You compete, I think, with like 25% of our business on marketing, but I'm like AI, data, and all that kind of stuff now, which is fine. Like there's room for everybody to be successful and happy, and that's awesome. Which is why you're on the show, right? Whatever, we'll all be successful. So I think it's interesting though, the human in the loop thing, because I've seen this as I build out Google Ads campaigns using the agents and stuff like that, is that there will get to a certain point where it will make a suggestion, it will say to do something, and you'll be like, no, I know better than you. But I think that only lasts as long as the agent doesn't have, Kurtis, you were talking about context in the form of a context window, but I'm going to talk about context in like information that it has about your organization. I think the only reason that I don't even want to say smarter, I just have a more complete picture to refine that AI output now, is because I have been working for the client for X number of years, and I know everything about the property, and I have weekly meetings with them, and I know what their pain points are and what their weak spots are, and their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, whatever threats. And so as soon as the AI gets all that plugged in, I think the human becomes a weakness. It's like we were, who is it? Is it Jeff? I can't remember his name. Jeff Cavins is Outdoorsy, I think, the CEO of Outdoorsy. I know it's Jeff. I can't remember his last name. It's Cavins, I think. Anyway, it posted on LinkedIn the other day about insurance. And I responded to him and I said, like, well, why are you going to need insurance in 5 years when everything on the road is, not everything, but like a significant portion of cars on the road are robo-taxis and self-driving cars. You won't need to have your Tesla Cybercab insured at the same way you would a human driver, because the weakness is the human driver. The self-driving car is going to be 100 times more reliable. So yes, right now there's insurance from companies like Lemonade and stuff for full self-driving, but long-term, like you're going to get to a point where it's so saturated, it'll take 10, 15, 20 years, right? But you're going to get to a point where robo-taxis and everything else are so saturated on the market that it's going to become a liability issue for the government to even issue a human a driver's license. And that'll come in like 10 or 15 years, right? And then it'll be illegal for humans to drive on certain roads, because you'll just kill people and the AI won't. And so it's crazy.
Yeah. So Brian, look, I totally agree. And that's a great example about human in the loop, right? But what I will say is that, look, we all use AI to be more productive in everything that we do. And you make a fine point. It's all about context, right? And you have to feed the beast. You have to make sure that context is there. But how often are we putting all of that information into whatever the AI is? So I'd like to pivot just a bit and talk about how people are using it, right? So lots of folks want to use AI, and maybe it's 0.3%, but they go into ChatGPT and there's that input box and they just start inputting. It's so much better when there's a point solution, or there's a prompt that you're feeding, or there's context that you're giving, so that the AI is going to do something very specific back for you. And I think one of the issues in the way folks are using it today is they just go to that prompt and they ask a question and they keep refining and refining and refining. And the AI doesn't always keep up. It doesn't always understand certain inferences. But if we take it back to digital marketing, the great thing is you can go ahead and create these specifically for the solutions that you need at the time, or a solution for a specific campground, so that it isn't just a series of questions and you feeding context and getting information back. Because even when you do, you get bad information back from that AI. So what I really like to see is when they're like real point solutions, and I'm going to feed it with this content or context, and what I'm going to get back is something that's really engineered to deliver the set of results that I'm looking for. So we use it regularly. I agree that human in the loop over time could certainly confuse processes, but I think for right now, we have to have it. And
I agree with you. Yeah, it's definitely necessary now.
Yeah, and
makes it more efficient, right? So we've got to work through the other side of it, and then I think we'll all do that together and make the AI processes smarter.
And then
And
we'll
Patrick-
retire, and then we'll all retire on the beach, and I won't have to go to work every day.
That'd be great.
Oh, don't talk about the dream, Brian. Don't talk about the dream.
That's not my dream. I'm going to be miserable if I have to retire and not do anything.
I actually probably fall into that same bucket, but but Patrick, one of the pieces that we still have that's human in the loop is like data refinement, and I always kind of laugh because I don't know if anyone's seen Severance. They're called macro data refinement. I'm like, that's a real job now. And anyway, that's like a huge piece of what you're talking about. It's, well, okay, I'm pushing all of this data in, and the AIs are forever changing right now. I shouldn't say forever, but they're learning. And so the prompts and the context windows that we're talking about, sometimes we keep our stuff exactly the same with perfect information. Then all of a sudden the neural net is updated and new answers start coming out. We're like, whoa, that wasn't what we were expecting.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely something we have to watch out for. Where I find the AI most useful in campaigns, or maybe even understanding, a prospect better, right? Because campgrounds, before you even run the campaign, like you have conversations, and they may not even know everything that's out there on the web that's being said about them, positive or negatively, right? I mean, how many times do we look at a positive review, but there's something very negative in the sentiment, right? So folks look and say, well, AI says I've got 4.8 reviews and things are generally good. Well, is AI actually reading for, I think what Brian said, context, right? So it's important that we get really, really smart about the prompts that we're using, or we get really, really smart with the agents and make sure that they're prompted to give us very specific bits of information back that we can then leverage other agents to understand.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear from you, Mark, guys, about this. I saw Google is already testing travel ad formats inside their AI mode. Are you guys seeing your clients already prepared, or at least starting to prepare for that? Like, obviously, classic like SEO and pay-per-click and all that stuff is totally shifted away. Like, are they moving in that direction? Your clients, are they doing it already since it's here? It's not like it's down the road.
That's a great question. So we do it a couple of different ways, right? There were ways that you could go ahead and get, even if it wasn't a hotel, you could push certain room nights that weren't hotel related. So we've had some capabilities like that. So we've been fortunate. Look, we all think that that's critically important. A lot of that actually has to do with SEO and OTAs, right? Like for branded search, if you're not winning, right, and it's a separate conversation, right? But if you're not winning and an OTA is winning, or in this case, Google has better placement, right? The question is, you're paying commission on things that you should have owned. But with that said, we don't have any partners right now pushing in that direction. But certainly, we've been doing it for a while. We think that with a mix of PMAX has always worked really, really well, as long as the inventory is able to be pushed. So it's critically important, but it should be for backfill. And I think a lot of folks don't look at it as backfill. I think they look at it as primary. And when they're doing that, they're putting commission in front of everything that they're selling. So I think it's always strategy that they should consider. But I know that's not necessarily the AI conversation. But Google's got great AI, and they're going to continue to make sure that they're leveraging the paid side of things. I think it's important that there's always a good balance between what you own and what you can own, versus just taking the easy way and paying the commission, if you will, if a click cost is a commission. I mean, ultimately it is.
That was going to be my next question, is how much of the equation is, because I mean, Brian, I feel like you and I talked about this 3 years ago. My concern with this big shift was exactly this. They were going to start monetizing advertising and who ends up in the AI mode results over somebody else. And then that just kind of prioritizing the guy with the dollars instead of the guy who has the best product. So, seeing this, how much of from an operator perspective, how much does having good, strong web content and a clean booking flows and clear communicative offers and great imagery and all of that stuff, how much of the mix is that versus just buying the ad space?
So if I could take a quick crack at it, what I would say is, SEO is SEO, and a good foundation in SEO is going to get you reasonable placement inside of those AI reviews or AI snippets.
Yeah.
But having said that, there are
one
certain
thing.
things
One
that
thing
you
I
can
want to ask you to clarify, Patrick, because SEO is a big term. What is good SEO to influence?
Yeah,
to get you to the point that you would get to the
Sure.
AI overview, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, good SEO to influence is certainly making sure that when we're talking with a customer, there are always keywords and strategies that they want to employ, right? That they think are critically important. But when we do the research, if we understand what people are searching for, and what some of those more active keywords may be, we want to make sure that we're showing up, top 1, 2, or 3 organically for our partners in those spaces. Now, having said that, it changes a lot with, the AI responses, right? Whether we call it AIO or GEO that's associated. Really what it boils down to is people are asking questions quite often. And, we don't see many campgrounds or even other businesses, right, that talk about the problems they solve for folks. And how can you do that? You can do that by having really robust FAQ sections, making sure that, you're marking it up properly. And I know that's a slightly different topic, but it all returns back.
It leads to AI, so we're right.
It all ties back to AI because look, at the end of the day, if you've got great FAQ content and you're talking about problems that you solve, so for a campground, if you make sure you're talking about the fact that you're pet friendly and that you've got certain amenities, so when folks are asking the search engine and getting an AI response and they're saying, I'm traveling such and such location, I'm looking for a campground or an RV park that is pet friendly. If you've got that content and it's marked up and it's proper in your SEO, that's going to help you actually show up in those results. Now, I think it's tough because now you've got local brands vying for some of the same things that national brands can win on a regular basis. But if we actually tie it all the way back to this community and its campgrounds and RV parks, they can win, and they can win at a very high rate. They're not going to be able to go in and do the things on Reddit that you read about. They're not going to be able to go in and do some of the things that larger businesses do because they've got swarms and swarms of people. Maybe agents can help out with that over time. But it all comes back down to consistency, proper content, and understanding what people are searching for. And I think the big thing with AIO or GEO is location. And it's about answering the questions that logical folks who are in a buying cycle will ask. And if your property is structured accordingly, you're going to show up at some point.
What do you think of this, Matt? You've been quiet over there, man.
Yeah, I'm taking it all in. I am not a digital marketing expert, so this is all really educational stuff to me.
Is that on the agenda for next week with Claude to become the digital marketing expert?
It is, and I honestly I have to just separately I have to thank you, Brian, because some of the partners at Climb Capital caught the episode from last month. And now, because I got fired up and I was talking about how great Claude is, and they saw how passionate I am about AI, I am now charged with rolling out our AI policy and strategy and enterprise implementation across the organization. So thank you, Brian, for some new responsibilities at work. But it's a joke.
You look like you were bored. You kept learning new AI tools. You needed something to do.
I mean, I have not yet really employed anything agentic other than Claude Code is agentic in and of itself, but that's right. I haven't set up an agent to do anything automated over a prolonged period of time yet. But
what you're doing, Matt, here, Jessica, show this graphic on my screen real quick. I found this graphic, so if you guys can see that, she's gonna make it big in a second. The This is the graphic I was talking about. Each dot is 3.2 million people. 2,500 dots equals 8.1 billion humans. Color is the most advanced interaction. So each dot, so the red dot is 0.06% of people. 2 to 5 million people in the world use AI for coding. So if you've already used Claude Code, you're in the top 0.06% of people in the world. If you just pay for an AI tool, only 0.3%, 15 to 35 million people in the whole world pay for any AI tool at $20 a month or higher. You're in the 0.3%. 16% of the world, 1.3 billion people have used, which is in the green, have used a free chatbot. And the rest in the gray boxes have never touched AI.
It's amazing.
So like we think like if I back off and look at myself and I think like how much my journey has gone over the last 3 years, to look at this now and realize that like 3 years later, I'm still in the 0.0, and I'm probably higher than that with agentic and stuff like that, right? But still like 0.06% of people worldwide still blows my mind with how fast this is going. So anyway, that was the graphic, but continue.
It's crazy. And so a month ago, right, we were on this same version of the podcast here, and I was talking about Claude skills and Claude projects, and felt like I was, humming along, doing some cool stuff, still just scratching the surface. And I'm fortunate to have, some friends, some buddies that are more tech savvy than I am. And they both separately were kind of giving me the same feedback of, you got to get on Claude Code, just get on Claude Code. And I'm like, well, I don't have anything to code. Like, why would I get on Claude Code? I had this mental block that let me think of an app I want to build first, and then I'll get on Claude Code. Mm-hmm. And then, I set it up on Claude Desktop, and I click over, and I'm like, I got to set up this weird file path thing, and like I don't even know what this is, and like I've got some skills to work over here, like let me just get back to work with my skills. And it took a final push last week, and what I did was I took my 18 skills that I built, I downloaded all of them, I got over the hump of setting up my file path, workspace, and I dumped my 18 skills into Claude Code and said, this is my first time using Claude Code. I don't know anything about automation or orchestration layers or coding. I'm a novice at this, but I feel like I've built a pretty good system of Claude projects and Claude skills. I want you to treat me like I'm a fifth grader doing all this stuff for the first time, and tell me all the optimization opportunities I'm missing out on, how I can replicate this in Claude Code, and just like, let's strategize around this. Show me what I'm missing here. And I spent the entire day replicating my entire Claude skills and Claude project setup, transferring all that context from one side to the other. And I couldn't even really articulate it, but I was having some pain points with Claude projects and Claude skills, namely, and I had no idea that the obvious solution to this was just using Claude Code instead, was it's a sandbox environment that you're in a ChatGPT or in a Claude.
Yeah, it's not local. It's a new memory reset every time you open a new chat.
Right. And then the other piece is that the artifacts, right? You get these cool artifacts, or in ChatGPT, it's called a canvas. And it's like a document that's separate from your chat, but there's no architecture there. There's no file or folder system. There's no organization. It just goes and creates new artifacts. Sometimes it does, sometimes it edits the old artifact, sometimes it creates a new artifact. So I was fighting. I created a project management skill and went deep on, okay, how do I optimize my project? How do I optimize my project instructions? How do I optimize my personal preferences and all these things? And it got incrementally better. But as soon as I jumped over to Claude Code, that just got over that mental block. Like I still have no real intention of coding, I use it to create things, mainly markdown files, right? That become strategy documents or content, or right. I'm still in that mode of like, I'm building out departmental strategies. I went through and for Climb Capital, created a Claude MD for really each department that I touch. We're doing a lot of automation on the acquisition side, on the capital raising side, and just still just scratching the surface. But that day I felt like, I've had these mini epiphanies with AI over the last 2 years. And that day, 1,000% more, my life just changed radically. I feel like I'm 100 times more productive. What I did in the last week with Claude Code, even on Claude skills and projects, would have taken me 2 months. And I was mad at myself at first because I had spent probably 2.5 months building out this whole Claude skills and Claude project setup, and I literally replicated it in 2 hours and made it 100 times more effective in Claude Code. And I was just like, this is amazing that I made this improvement, but imagine if I just listened to my buddies that told me to get into Claude Code 2 months ago. I'd be light years ahead. I'd be the 2 months. If I had spent that in Claude Code, I'd be a year ahead. I'd be 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
On certain things.
And think about where it's going to be in 3 months, right? Like this is like I was doing an exercise with this. I won't say what company, but it was a reservation system in our industry who I was talking to back and forth yesterday. And I said I went to Claude and they were talking about the use of, and I'm just trying to intentionally be vague here, right? The use of AI in the industry and how software companies are going to take advantage of that in the future, right? And I went to Claude and I asked it the question, and I said, how long would it take me to duplicate all the features and functionality of blank reservation system with Claude Code the way it currently stands today with GPT 5.2 codex and all those things with 2 developers? And it was probably, if you have some outdoor hospitality experience, 4 to 7 months. So the moat that all these software companies have, not just PMSs, right? But everybody else, the moat that they have right now is not anywhere close to what they think. Like a 4-person startup could probably come in and not destroy one of these PMS providers because they obviously have a lot of goodwill built up in the industry. They go to trade shows. Everybody knows them. It's going to take a long time, right? But they could come and they could outdo them in features in 6 months.
Well, and
but
Brian,
I have a
can I add to that real quick? That's what I'm talking about right there in terms of that dark factory pattern. Is you said 2 devs, but why limit it to 2 devs?
Well, that's
Why
the point.
not 1,000?
It was
Why
just
not
for the
1,000?
exercise. Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I look at this. We own our own PMS. We're right there with software, and I look at it as it's an interesting perspective for business owners because form fit software just became really accessible. All you have to know is your business process very well, and you're going to have to be committed to refinement. And all of a sudden now you have access. Now there's a lot to that. So I hope anyone listening to this podcast knows that there's a lot of professionals that have, right? We're not quite there. There's a lot of bugs that'll still happen. We call it vibe coding for a reason, but
it's not anywhere close to what it was even in early January.
But can I add something to that, Kurtis? So look, I totally agree, and I think you both nailed it. When you know your business segment, sure. Now it's I don't have to translate to a group of folks who may or may not get it right and put it into a sprint, and then I'm testing after. What I find though, because we do a lot inside of Influence. The question that I have is, when I'm vibe coding to a degree, I'll vibe code for certain things. So we do a lot of organic social. So if I can vibe code a tool that says, hey, here's everything, all the assets, everything that we know about amenities and timeframes for this campground, let's make sure that when we create posts, it double checks that database and says everything in the post is accurate, right? We would use it for those things. But if we're talking about enterprise level technology, my big concern with it is, sure, you can get a great POC out of the door, but now you have to worry about security, right? And so the big thing that I think about is, sure, you could have two people in a garage vibe code a great solution, but at the end of the day, they don't really know all the code that was written. They don't understand everything that was connected. When there's a bug, wow, troubleshooting is really, really tough because you don't have the developer that developed that piece of code that says, I know why that's failing. Now, don't get me wrong, the AI is going to really, really help, and certainly does. But there is a security side of this that is a real risk. And I certainly hope that folks who use it really use it for POC first. And one of the ways that we find it to be valuable is, instead of going through wireframes and sharing with your teams and your executive leaders how things are going to be built and how they may work once we develop it, you can vibe code something that actually works today and then take it to your dev team and your security team and your database team and say, this is the functionality that we're looking for. Let's reverse engineer the full spec. And now you have a way that you can actually move through your dev process much more efficiently, but still employ all of the necessary controls around some enterprise software.
So two things here that you talked about, right? Jessica, in Slack over there, there's two links. Remember how you scrolled down in Slack and then found them under Brian? Yesterday, I sent you a couple links. Yep. Scroll down in the direct messages on Brian, and then there's two YouTube links in there. One is going to address security that you just talked about, and then one I'm going to blow your mind about, Matt. Have you ever tried Claude Cowork yet?
So no, because I had quite an adventure. Like 3 days after I'm like really humming in Claude Code, it all crashed on me because I have a ARM64 machine that it worked for like a week, and then it's never worked for Claude Cowork. They have not released Claude Cowork for Windows ARM64 machines.
They have now. It came out like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, Matt, what you need to do is you need to go get GitHub. Just go get a GitHub account, publish to GitHub, and then go get Vercel and publish to that. It'll be seamless, and you'll stop running it on your machine.
Well, so here's the thing. So and my two buddies that were telling me get on Claude Code, get on Claude Code, they were also telling me just run it in the terminal, and I'm like what are you talking about, dude? Like I don't, what are you talking about? I'm not a coder. And so I'm using it in the chat bot, and then I start getting failed to load session every 2 minutes.
Yikes.
Having to refresh my screen, and I'm troubleshooting it, and they're like, basically it's just like, sorry, you have an ARM64 machine, it's unstable, like deal with it. But I want to challenge you on the Claude Cowork, because when I open it, it still says not supported.
I would just delete it and reinstall it.
I did it about 100 times the other day.
Last week? Okay, yeah. I haven't tried it. I haven't installed it because I use I build my own OpenClaw thing on the Mac Mini, so I haven't installed.
I'll get to that next week, Brian. Give me some time. But so then I go over to the terminal, and then I'm getting error messages in the terminal. Same deal, same reason, just the same bugginess, instability showing up in the terminal. So I set up WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, because Linux are ARM64. This is all new to me.
Yeah,
but I'm going through the.
I don't know how many people in our audience are with you, but I'm with you.
And this is the lesson: is AI will teach you how to use AI. So I have the desktop Claude Code open, refreshing the screen every 2 minutes because it's failing to load session, coaching me through troubleshooting this. So I tried 100 different things, and then it finally arrives at the conclusion of you need to set up WSL. Linux is also ARM64, but it's more stable with Claude Code. So now I've for the last week I've been using Claude Code in the VS Code terminal through WSL, but I set up all shortcuts. So I have a couple different workspaces. Just go into the terminal, type my shortcut, opens up my workspace, and I'm off to the races. So it's been,
an
adventure.
Let me show you two things. First, for Patrick, we're going to share a video here. Patrick, this is going to directly address your security thing. I feel like we're loving on Claude today. There's lots of really good AIs out there. But
The Geminis we should be talking about, and we should be talking about GPT.
This came out, I think, like maybe, I don't know how many days ago, a week ago. Let's watch this real quick. Go ahead, Jessica. That's the security thing, right? So Claude is addressing this directly. They have this product out already. And then Matt, for you, I want to show you some of the new things they're doing with Cowork and make you want to figure out how to install it correctly. This will be good for everybody. This is for enterprise stuff, but so check this out. Okay. So plugins is like Cowork, get that working, right? But plugins, Matt, is the thing on top of skills that packages skills together and a bunch of other stuff. So if you guys have been paying attention to the stock market for the last week, where the different verticals have been crashing, it was like legal software first, and then something else software, and then financial. It's because Claude was releasing this Cowork thing that has plugins that there's like literally a legal plugin you can install, and that legal thing has skills for every single thing a legal person could do, almost like an agent, Kurtis, right? And then you just type a / command and it can execute all the stuff and do all the things, and it's nuts.
I'm just happy I never have to build another PowerPoint from scratch ever again.
No. But Claude Cowork, like you can go in there and say, organize my desktop, or look through all my campground photos and tell me which ones I should post on social media with, or like, the difference is it controls your local folders that you give it access to, and it can organize and route and do things with and whatever else. And it has that local memory.
I want to talk a little bit about, so like all these skills and all these tools, like one of the things, and Cara, this was you that I think it was like 5 months ago, 6 months ago, it was a long time. You told me that you were talking to your AI, and I now talk like a crazy person to my AI for 30 minutes every morning while I'm on my walk. And I just talk about, all right, hey, what are the new features that I should be including, talking about AI, or maybe it's something we're working on in the company. And this is like, to Matt's point and Patrick's point, it's like AI teaches you AI. Just
Totally.
when you're working out, just talk to it. You'll look crazy. Like, I recommend walking at like 5 a.m. There's usually nobody out at that time.
It is interesting.
I think crazy would be not talking to it. That's crazy.
Yeah, the typing gets old. I have a couple of girlfriends who put all their relationship, like they're like, I'm fine with my therapist. ChatGPT totally knows me now. But it's interesting. I wonder how that AI has kind of now perceives those individuals who have poured their entire emotional personality down into them. That's fascinating to me.
Well,
But
the
yeah,
privacy is interesting too, and like I don't want to take a dark turn here, but I just want to say real quick, like, did you read, Cara? You and I are up here in Canada with the shooting that happened in BC. Did you read about ChatGPT and how they shut down the guy's account like 2 months before the shooting because he was talking about violence, and they never reported it to the authorities?
wow, no, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
Um,
so, like it's really interesting the things that it will know about us, and whether that's Minority Report-ish or like helpful, nobody really knows yet. But continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I totally agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that continued, like we're talking about evolution wise. I mean, the AI is always learning us, and how that's going to shift our relationships with it into the future is fascinating to me.
Well, and the speed with which this is going to run. So, Matt, you were talking about coding, and I know you've probably done, Kurtis and Patrick have done coding too. But you know how long it takes? Like, do you ever get annoyed by it? You're like, it's going to code this whole thing for me, and I got to sit there and watch it, and it takes for a while, right? But this is what people are not understanding of where it's going to go. Jessica, share my screen for a second over here. She's going to make this big. This is something, there's a couple examples of this, right? But this is just an easy free example I could pull up. It's called ChatJimmy. You can go to it to ChatJimmy.ai. It is not like it's not the world's best coder, to be clear, okay? It's not the world's best anything. But I want you to pay attention to this real quick. So so you guys can see this big enough. So down here in the bottom, I have typed vibe code me an MVP. So this is a minimum viable product version of an app for a campground on iOS. Include every detail I need, make it super comprehensive, give me the full code. All right. So you know how coding works on Claude Code, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay. Watch this. Don't blink, okay? There's your code.
Wow.
It just did all of that. I'm scrolling down through it all. It did all of that in 0.181 seconds,
Yeah.
15,300 tokens per second. This is where AI is going. So you saw like OpenAI had a partnership with a company called Cerebus, which is a big company that does super fast inference chips. A month ago or something, you saw NVIDIA. They didn't buy Grok, Grok, but they basically gutted the whole company for $20 billion and took all their talent. It was the same play. This is the inference speed. So when people think like it's you're never going to vibe code software because that's going to take like, people are going to have to know terminal and all that other stuff. This is where the future is. It's going to literally spin up apps on your computer in real time in half a second. And you'll never know. Like, you'll click the email button and it'll write the email application. And by the time you're used to it opening on your computer, it'll be written and it'll be an email application. So it's going to get really crazy, guys. In case you were just bored with where it's at now.
But you don't get the benefit of all the funny words that Claude Code puts there at the bottom.
That's true. That's true.
Is it
I'm not saying I'm going to be an early
liber-gibbeting or whatever. Like,
yeah.
It's one of my favorite words. It said bloviating. Pontificating. Like, is this thing calling me an idiot right now?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, mine calls me an idiot, I think, at some point, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely dumber than the AIs are. So, we all are. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, did you guys, before we wrap up, I know you're trying to wrap up, Brian, did everybody listen to the Sam Altman speech that he gave in India last week?
I didn't listen to the whole speech, but I heard anecdotally about it.
anecdotally, the advancement, we always talk about how fast it's moving, and I'll just bring up his one point that he brought up in his speech, and he said, last year I gave this same talk in the same place 365 days ago, and AI could do 11th to 12th grade math. This year, AI just solved 7 of the 10 impossible problems that the mathematicians put out in January every year, and it's working on the other 3. He's like, and that's how fast it came in 1 year in terms of just like an education level. It went from being in high school to being at the front end in mathematics of like right on the cutting edge of mathematics. And that's exponential growth. It's hard for us to understand what that is, right? Just in
It hasn't even started to progress fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like we'll talk about this later on Outwired, to your point about what mathematics and all that stuff. So for those of you who don't know, we have a podcast coming up. Myself and Scott Barr do Outwired. It's going to go live in less than an hour here, about 59 minutes after this. But today that's part of actually what we're going to talk about. There was a whole video that I saw on YouTube about, I think he was a professor of something, and he went to like, it was either Harvard or Stanford or one of the Ivy League colleges. And he sat in a meeting with a bunch of the professors who were talking about this, about how like they've had problems that have been sitting there on the shelf for 30 years unsolved in physics and mathematics and biology and every protein folding and everything else. And they're just prompting ChatGPT and it's just solving it in seconds. Things that it can't be solved in 30 years. And all like there's thousands of volumes of this stuff that are sitting on the shelf that are just waiting for somebody to go prompt ChatGPT. Now imagine all the research we've done over the last 60 years that you can plug into ChatGPT and say, what did we miss? That a human being missed an inference or a decision tree that would have maybe cured cancer in the 1970s or something, right? That AI is going to find all this stuff. It's going to move so fast. So, all right. Final thoughts, guys. We got to wrap up. Cara, any final thoughts? And then where can they find out more about CCRVA?
Oh gosh, CCRVA.ca or on any of our social channels. We are Camp in Canada. Final thoughts. I mean, I feel like I say this every time, but I'm always just shocked a month from now to connect with you guys again at all the crazy things we'll be considering in such a short period of time. So I can't wait.
Thanks for being here as always, Matt.
Thanks for the time, everybody's enjoyable chat. You can find us at climbcapital.com or unhitchedmgmt.com and unhitchedrv.com for the consumer side of things. I'm going to go uninstall and reinstall Claude. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to go buy a Mac. So I appreciate it.
I'm not a Mac guy, but Mac does work more flawlessly because it's so self-contained, right? It's locked down.
Yeah.
It just works easier for some of this stuff. Yeah, call me if you need help, Matt. I'll help you.
Yeah,
Kurtis, final thoughts?
Thanks for having me on again, Brian. I always appreciate the discussion here. And I just love learning about all of the new AI tools because it's happening so fast, but thank you. And you can find more about our journey at ourjourney.com and advancedoutdoormanagement.com. If you have any questions, please reach out.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Kurtis. Last but not least, Mr. Patrick.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be on the podcast. It was great. I actually learned a lot. Kurtis, if you don't mind, I might reach out and ask you some questions about Dark Factory. And Matt, Brian, I'm going to go a little bit deeper with Claude Code, and I really like that quick impromptu video on the plugins. So I haven't actually really dug into that. So learned a lot today. Thanks for having me. Influence Outdoor Hospitality, you can find it online, influenceoutdoorhospitality.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Again, if you're not bored and sick and tired of hearing me, I will be on Outwired live with Scott Barr in about 2 hours. We're going to be digging into some pricing data. We released a big, huge report. The Insider Perks Pricing Report 2026 came out today. If you haven't seen that, it's really good details, like 70 pages long, really good stuff. We're going to dive into that in the MC Fireside Chats episode next week, which is our data and analytics one. But other than that, we're going to be talking about data, AI, and more stuff on Outwired. So if we see you there, great. If not, then we'll see you next week, another episode of MC Fireside Chats. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.